Being involved in business is both a blessing and a curse. We've spent the last 11 years in our family business and it has not been without its challenges. The things we've seen, done and overcome isn't for the faint-hearted, and what we want to do is share some of the stories that goes to show the raw emotion and difficulty that can go into not only starting a business but maintaining and scaling it. Whether you're an owner or just working within a business, stick around and we'll show you how to overcome facing challenges and mental health issues within business life.
So what are some of the things that you do to, I suppose, keep your sanity under the madness that is our business?
It certainly ain't working with you. But yeah. I don't know whether I'm too focused on trying to keep my sanity. I feel like I don't want to say I'm insane, but I feel like starting a business and running a business isn't for the sane-minded, because it's not easy and there are some real challenges that you have to go through every single day. You know, my brain now is quite literally morning, noon and night, business, business, business. How do I improve? How do we scale? How do we grow? Problems with the team, problems with the customers, problems with suppliers. There's always something to do. There's always something to solve. And the reality is, unless you've got a mindset that can be 100% dedicated to running that business, you're never going to succeed. So for me, I think everybody's got to be a little insane to actually want to be involved in a business, to certainly run it or to start it, or just massively determined or goal-driven in wanting to solve a problem. You know, for most of these companies now that come about, whether it's a PayPal or whether it's a Facebook, where he wanted to create a social network. This is Mark Zuckerberg for Facebook. He wanted to create a social network to allow people at Harvard to create better connections, mainly for him to get dates. I think was kind of the premise of Facebook, was a dating platform for Mark Zuckerberg to find girls at Harvard. And obviously it stemmed from there, but it was a guy that wanted to stop at nothing to help solve that problem. And then he built the business and it just took over his life. So I think the first thing with regards to staving off any depression, anxiety or bad mental health is just understanding that there's going to be shit that comes with it, and just to accept it for what it is. You're going to get knocked off the horse and you're going to get beat up, not physically, but literally, but metaphorically, and just being okay with it.
Definitely. And I think you've got to just face some of the hard things head on, because unless you take them head on and just face them straight away, the pile just ever so slightly just starts to mound up and get bigger and bigger and bigger. And the minute that you allow that pile of work to really start to build, I think that's when some of the bigger anxieties then start to hit, because if you've not tackled them, it ends up becoming some sort of, I don't know, immovable object, and it's hard to sort of tick the thing. So it's important to keep on top. But there's going to be days where the shit hits the fan and every single thing that could possibly go wrong will go wrong, and you've got to have the mental fortitude to be able to take them on and complete the things when no one else wants to do.
And this year's been a massive demonstration of that, because it's been a bastard because of the amount of things that have cropped up. Some of them our fault, some of them not our fault. Now, one of the best characteristics, and it's one that you need to have as a business owner, is self-accountability. If you haven't got the ability to blame yourself and to look for lessons in problems that happen, might not be because of you, but that have happened to you, even if they've happened around you, if you've got the ability to take self-accountability for things, the lessons that you can take from that is huge. So, for example, one of the big ones, we've had a customer of ours, through no fault of our own, they lost 2 big clients, and it has sent them into a point where they're facing administration, which means they've got no cash, their bills are sort of adding up, and they haven't got the means to pay them off. Now, for us, it's not a great deal of money as a business is concerned. It's about £20,000. Now, if I didn't have the wherewithal to say, right, well, that's not my fault, shrug it off, there's nothing I can do about it, what can I do, blah, 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 then I won't look for the lesson in it, and I also won't look for a solution to the problem. And again, as a business leader, one of the other big things that you need to have is to be a great problem solver. And when it comes to mental health and things like that, I think one of the big things that they struggle with is, like you've said, problems start to add up into their own heads and they let it get the best of them, rather than thinking of solutions to the problems and tackling them one by one. They become overwhelmed. And so with this one, a simple solution was just make sure we're quick to get on the phone, quick to put a solution in place, quick to get our stock out, quick to get some money for nothing instead of nothing. And all of a sudden, a problem that was a £20,000 loss has all of a sudden turned into a potential break even, maybe even a financial gain in the future through the potential of new business that could be won. And that would only have happened if I'd have taken the initiative to actually go and speak to them, be quick, and take the accountability on and sort of look for solutions.
This is a story that, you know, happened to us last year. Was this exact same thing occurred, and it was even worse because it was on foreign soil. It was in Italy. So, you know, God knows what the money was used for, pizza empire or something, I think. But we were owed, again, in that instance, about £50,000-60,000, which again, you know, we're starting to creep up the ladder now, and it's a lot. So, you know, again, what can you do? You go, well, it's in Italy, God, we'll just have to go through, you know, the hoops that we'll go through, and we'll have to kind of just see what we can do through the courts and try and get the money back. But instead, I'd got on a plane, flew over to Italy, went to the warehouse, did a bit of backhanding, offering, you know, people a bit of money here and there, saying, look, you know, take about €1,000, just let me, we've got stock here that's not been paid for. I know you're not going to move it, but I've got a lorry here. Can we just help me put some of this stuff on, get the stock, send it away? Also said to him about, look, can we have a client list of all these products so we can go direct? Because, you know, it's hard to see it from our point of view at the moment because, you know, in the reality of it, you're going to lose a job, but there's going to be potentially other people that could lose their jobs. And you got to sort of say that a little bit to them. But, you know, we've then had a client list, we've had stock, and then we've been able to build up new customers. You've got one of them, and I've had a few new customers from that experience that ended up going really badly. But like you said, we've turned it into a positive where we've ended up coming out the other end with more money than we would have lost.
And it does make you so much more resourceful as a person when you are running the businesses, whatever business it might be. You have to be resourceful. You have to, like I said, come up with solutions to the problems. And that was a great example of it. Now, obviously, there's so many times where, and this is, again, people don't understand about business owners, and we've talked about it before, but the reality is we get vilified and people think that we are exploiting other people's hard work and that we're feeding off of other people and encouraging almost this slave labour mindset. Now, unfortunately, the reality is there are business owners out there that are just utter might have to
I know one of them. I'm not going to name and share.
But the reality is there are also the vast majority that aren't like that. They're just trying to build something. They're trying to offer a service or a product and trying to help solve a problem for people, and they are needed. And, you know, I could just list through a few of the things that we have to face on a daily basis, and people go, woe is me, it's what you signed up for. Of course it is. It's about scaling a business. It's about where you're getting your money from to pay the bills, payments from suppliers, payments from customers, managing a team, making sure the team's happy, controlling the culture of the business, controlling the marketing, controlling the sales, controlling all of the development of the business, the brand awareness, the brand identity. There's so many different things that are going on at any one time in a business, and the business owner is directly responsible for each and every one. So you've got a sales team, marketing, warehouse or quality or logistics or operations. The person who owns the business has got to worry about every single thing going on in the business. Whereas if you're in operations, you only have to worry about operations. If you're in sales, you only have to worry about sales. So just bear in mind that the weight on business owners' shoulders And the amount of potential anxiety and worry that can go on to them, because they do have, I mean, we have a team of 15 people that'll continue to grow. And really the weight's on our shoulders for not only us and the business, but also the staff and the team and their families, and how they would be affected if the business went, if something happened to the business and it all went wrong and we lost it and 15 people are out of a job.
Well, we've seen it like with the customer you've just said. That company, they're going, well, I think they're teetering on the edge, but 100%, one thing's for sure, the staff, some of them have been cut. Same as the company, in Italy, they're going to have had, they've all lost their job. They employed hundreds of people. So all of them just gone, and all of the weight is on, business owners and the people, the shareholders of the business to keep that going, obviously for themselves. But that's why business owners, not even all the time, to be honest, because again, in the initial set of phases, they tend to not take a salary at all. But later on down the road, when it's established and built up, it's why they can take more of a salary, because they've got more risk involved in their own capital and X, Y, and Z.
It just goes to show how difficult it actually is. But people, because there are so many employees and so few employers, the scale is always tipped into the favour of the employees. We did a video and it went obviously quite big on TikTok the other week, where the reality was, the point that I was trying to make in the video was that my genuine desire for everyone who was watching was to make as much money as possible. That was the big thing behind the video and the idea for the video. Obviously, it came out wrong, and I can see how it came out 100%. But because there's so many employees who immediately saw that and just thought, there's this evil villain at the top of the mountain who's picking on people and exploiting people. It's just, it blows my mind how that's everyone's first thought of employers. And again, I'll go back to what I said earlier with regards to taking accountability. That's probably something that we should do better. So me doing TikTok probably didn't help that situation. But unfortunately, to make people, you have to almost go to these extremes to make people see the reality of what the actual situation is, rather than just sort of skipping around a point lightheartedly. You need to kind of just get to the crux of the point and be like, if you want to make more money, you don't just sort of piss around, knock on a door and just expect to have money rain down on you. You have to add value to a business, and that is regardless of what you say about inflation and businesses, what they should be doing. There is no better way than to secure a higher salary, than to increase your value. And I mean, taking it all the way back to sort of mental health, that's another thing that business owners have to worry about, is the cost of living and making sure that their team are paid, and not feeling guilty about the fact that their team aren't paid. Because I know for me, for example, and for us, I wish all my staff made millions and millions of pounds. That'd be great. So they'd be all happy and living a life of luxury. I wish I was on millions of pounds. I'm not. But hopefully one day we'll get there. But it is all of that, is like the stress that adds into running a company. And again, I'm hoping that some people might hear this and at least have a bit of empathy towards the people, like you said, that are owning the business, is trying their best.
I think as well, people have a misconception that they see probably business owners and they throw them all in the same hat as the Jeff Bezoses and Elon Musks, and it's like, look at them, they've got all their yachts, they've got all the money in the world, but in reality, most business owners are small businesses, and it's a different kettle of fish. Like it's a lot harder. You got a lot less maneuverability than probably someone like an Elon Musk. But what I find crazy is, I mean, what are your thoughts on the culture difference towards business between the UK and US?
Well, obviously the US, they have a slightly less liberal employment law, where in this country it's, and I was talking about this with somebody the other day, where you can just fire anybody almost for anything. There has to be due process and there has to be an understanding that the job hasn't been carried out properly. But the employee in this country is almost the one in control of the employer. And we've got an external HR team that give us advice on certain sort of HR situations, on issues with staff. But the reality is, to be in business, there has to be an element of control from an employer-employee relationship, or because that's just however you're going to learn. There needs to be a hierarchy involved. Otherwise, it's just completely flat on the organisational structure of the business, and no one can make a decision because you're all equal. There has to be a decision maker. And with that, obviously, it gives an element of control. But for us, it's like looking at, in America with their culture, it does for me, I think it breeds a level of discipline into the staff, because they have to work hard through the fear of doing a bad job and being relieved of duty. Whereas in this country, if you've done 2 years, once you've hit that 2 years, and with Labour at the minute, they're on about slashing that down to 3 months or less. If you've literally just joined a business, they can't get rid of you, even if you just go in on day one. And this was what's crazy, what I saw or heard from our HR the other day. Somebody could join your business, day one, stick the feet up on the desk and do nothing all day. The boss or manager will go over and say, what are you playing at? Why are you not working? And he'll go, stressed, got anxiety, can't work today. And it's like, okay, well, when can you work? You didn't tell us about this. What can we do? You could do that for the whole week. Do nothing. Carry on with this sort of stress and anxiety card. Completely play it off as being as purposeful and fake about the whole thing as they want. You cannot get rid of that person for any reason until you've gone through due process and you've actually gone through the process of asking if they need help, training them. And it's like, how have we landed ourselves in a situation where as a country, you can turn up to work, do fuck all, and then continue to get paid, but they can't get rid of you because you have this protected characteristic. And in America, obviously they don't have that. It's an element of, are you doing a bad job? You're fired, apprentice style, get out. And that's as simple as that. I think we've lost that, which means we've lost the discipline, which I think is a big part of this whole mental health epidemic. I think this whole cultural epidemic that we're going through at the minute is because people haven't got any discipline anymore.
And I think if you look at the largest economies in the world, I mean, I know what people say about the Americans, but like, the discipline and the willingness to start companies and, inspire a generation, create, innovate, and, have that American dream. It's at the culture and the foundations of each person that's born an American. The other economy, China, again, you got the discipline and you got to do things right. And, you are disciplined if you do things wrong. And it teaches and breeds that whole, culture of improvement and bettering yourself, not a group, but bettering yourself. And I think that's at the root of why they're both the most successful economies to have ever existed, because they've got that at the heart of what they do.
The way they see things, and I just got back from China, and obviously I've visited a couple of times now. We've got factories over there, and their whole mindset is, and there's a Chinese proverb where it's, plant a seed today and allow the future generations to bear the fruits of your hard work and your labour. And they've got this long-term mindset where they do things for the next generation. They do things selflessly for other people. Whereas we as a nation and we as a people could not give a shit about the person that's even next door to us. Our neighbours. Who knows their neighbour anymore? And who actually has this sentiment of society towards people. And I think that plays massively into the mental health side of things, because people have become so selfish. And one of the biggest things you can do in life to actually feed, and we talked about this in another episode, to feed your mental health bank, where we refer to it as like having a bank account of mental health in your head, where you can do certain things that will withdraw from it and do certain things that deposit good stuff into it. And some of the things, just quickly, like withdrawing from your mental health bank account would be doing drugs, alcohol, drinking, partying all the time, not working out, eating crap foods, as just a few. And then some of the things that deposit into it would be ticking goals or targets, achievement, fulfilling things, helping others is a massive one. Spending time with friends in a productive environment, they're depositing into your mental health bank account, all of those things. So this sense of community that countries like China have, even countries like America still have, countries like Africa and generally poorer nations seem to have it, this whole sense of community, whereas now we're so divided as a people. Everyone at the minute in this country is complaining about immigration, or they're complaining about the government and which party is worse or better. And there's just this divide of people which is destroying society. The rich are evil, the poor are lazy, whatever it is. There's just this disconnect now from society. And I think one of the things that we should all be doing, certainly in business, is creating this culture of helping one another again. Is recreating this culture of society where we're working together, where we recognise that a problem shared is a problem halved, and that we can achieve far more, not only for ourselves, but for those around us by working together and recreating and rebuilding this society, rather than being this selfish, self-centered and self-focused individual. It's just the wrong way to look at things.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. I think you've got to focus. You improve yourself first, and then use that to then help others. I think the problem we go wrong sometimes with the group identities of some things, and you kind of shirk responsibility the minute that you kind of go, well, it's victim mentality, and I've said it a load of times as well. With what you want is meritocracy, where good hard work pays off, because it does in your actual life of trying to achieve things, but it also, again, depositing into the positive mental bank. If you're achieving things and you can visually see that you're hitting targets and you're doing well, you'll get home from work, or you get home from, again, improving a PB at the gym or something, and you think, oh God, yeah, I did really well today. And it's serotonin hit to your mental health bank, and it's good.
Definitely agree with all of that. I think everybody's come away from setting goals and targets in their own lives, and certainly in business, it's one of those things that as a business owner, you should be, definitely as an owner or in management or whatever your role within the business, should be having these goals and targets to hit both weekly, monthly, yearly, and then setting your sort of goals and setting your sights, even further afield to every 5 years, 10 years. People have become so short-sighted in their lives now, where they're only looking to the end of the day, the end of the week. But if you were to ask yourself, it's a good question, where do you want to be in 10 years? Where do you want to be even in 5 years? Most people wouldn't be able to answer the question, where do you want to be in 1 year? People can't even make a New Year's resolution these days and have it last for longer than 3 weeks, because people's discipline has just completely gone out the window, and it is a shame that it's happened. And I like to think that obviously as business leaders that the level of discipline is higher than most, because the reality is you've got to be disciplined to maintain a business. Certainly like one like ours, we'll try and hit about by 2 years' time, we'll hit 8 figures in turnover annually, which is £10 million minimum every year in turnover. And we wouldn't get there if we weren't disciplined. So with the reality of that goal in particular, we'd have to look at that and say, right, each month we need to make about £850,000, which means we need to break it down into weeks, which means then we look at what we have to make each week, about 220,000, 200,000-ish. And then we've got to be disciplined to go each week. Let's check the results. How have we done? Did we tick the result this week? Do we need to do more next week? Have we got a bit of a break next week? And that's the discipline that comes in. And I feel like, again, a lot of the issues that people have with mental health nowadays is that they know what they should be doing. They know how to improve their mental health, but they don't have the discipline to actually go out and change anything about it, to actually do anything.
I think a massive help, and it's helped me definitely, is the environment you find yourself in. If you got to go in the right environments to then breathe this, oh my God, yeah, I want to do it. And you can feel it in the air. It's like we're going to an event, tomorrow for the rest of the week, and it's going to be just all high energy, success, positive thinking. And you come away from those events and you think, oh yeah, you know what? Yeah, I can do that. Oh, I want to do this. I want to implement that. And, granted, some people will go away from that and not do anything with it. But at least, even if you are putting yourself in the environment where you're actually starting to think like that, if you've gone from, bad mental health, just to put yourself somewhere like that, I think it can start to spark the embers of starting to think that way. And then if you just try and push yourself to do more events like that, I think, again, it massively helps.
One thing I've got as a question is, do you think it's bad to have bad mental health or thoughts? Is it something that you should accept that you've had a bad day, or that you're veering down a path that could lead to an element of anxiety or depression? Or do you accept that that was what makes us human and that they're normal feelings that we should have? Or do you think the best way would be, right, course correct, I've had a bad day, something's happening, if I don't stop this now, I need to immediately course correct to be able to prevent this from happening? Or do we just accept that it is a part of life?
Yeah, unfortunately, mental health is just a fact of life. Everyone has mental health. You have mental health. I have mental health. God has mental health. Everyone who's ever walked the earth at some point has had mental health, but it's how you deal with it. And I think the more, and I've definitely benefited from it over the years, that, when I first joined the business, like 10 years ago, I wouldn't have a stapler on the desk and be the end of the world. Probably a bit of an exaggeration, but, nowadays, we might end up with a customer like that example I'd said earlier about, potentially losing 50, 60,000. And that affects me less now than some of the first things that happened when we first started. And that's only because I've dealt with the mental health over the years and just reinforced it constantly, been dealing with it day in, day out. And anyone who's watching this video who knows they're in a stressful job and environment, it's like dealing with bills, a shock bill that comes through. You're more equipped to deal with those things because you do it on a daily basis rather than just, if you never have anything happen to you and it's all roses and all wonderful, and then you get hit with a bill for like, I don't know, 3-point fine or something on your license, you might think it's the end of the world. But if you're dealing with stresses day in, day out, you're going to be far more equipped to deal with it.
So you're saying everybody's becoming a big baby. They need
I'm
to
saying,
grow up
yeah,
a bit.
I mean, at the end of the day, everyone has got mental health.
One for me that happened that it is etched into my mind, and it will be with me forever. And it was something that I remember being a sort of mid-teen, 15 years old, 16 years old. And I spent my early teens, after moving over to secondary school, beginning this decline into what would eventually become a mental health issue of depression. And it was never severe, but it was one where, again, I was withdrawing from the mental health bank account and adding nothing back in. I was spending all day on my computer or my Xbox. I wasn't spending any time outside. I wasn't doing any form of exercise. I wasn't spending time with friends. I wasn't speaking to people. And it just slowly but surely just made me feel worse and worse and worse. And I was always me as a person. You don't completely change who you are. But I just didn't have anybody calling me out on my shit at the time, until I remember finally coming to blows with Dad. And because he is who he is, he's a leader, he's very sort of dictatorial, and he's a business owner, and he'd come home and he wanted to make sure that we'd achieved something in the day. And obviously he could see over time that certainly me, but you as well, was just going into a steady decline of this cesspit of shit where we were spending all day doing nothing, accomplishing nothing, being a waste of time. And the discipline was gone. And if he didn't do something, we were going to end up, God knows where, you know, whether it was drugs or whether it was just in at best a crap job or just being a loser, basically, you know, offering nothing to those around us, offering nothing to the family, and not doing our job as men, which we hold traditional views on what that is, not in this old school 1920s, you know, prehistoric way of thinking where, you know, it's
the nuclear family, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah, there you go. It's the best way to say it. You know, we believe in traditional values in that sense, where men are protectors and providers, and that's what we've had growing up, and it's worked. We've got a stable family with a stable household with our mum and dad who are still together, and it works, having that traditional mindset. Anyway, when he came back from work, I was at my sort of wit's end because we were arguing all the time. He was getting back and saying, you're a waste of time, you've done nothing productive all day. And I was of the opinion, sort of saying, well, I've finished my schoolwork, why are you coming back being such an arsehole, basically? And feeling really bad in myself because I knew he was right, but I didn't want to admit it. And obviously at this point, I'm 16, I'm a young man. I like to think as a boy, at 16, you think you're a man, but you're not, you're a child. And I remember saying to him at the time, you know, I hate you, like you're just evil, you're a horrible person, you're a bully. You come home,
I remember it well.
You make me feel you make me feel rubbish, and you know, I might as well just kill myself. And I was at that point, and I remember saying that to him, and it's quite deep. And he looked at me and just said, he goes, take yourself off to your room. And he goes, if you're going to act like a baby and you need to go and do that, go upstairs and cry. And if you're going to be, you said, you call yourself a man and you tell us that you're all a man now, but you're acting like a baby. If you want to go kill yourself and do it, go up to your room and sort yourself out and don't come down until you're either dead and until you've realised that what it takes to be a man. And I was so shocked by his reply. And now people would look at that and say, what a disgusting, horrible, vile human. How dare you say that to your own son? But it worked. It immediately instilled in me. I went upstairs and I remember crying whilst having this argument with him. I remember getting upstairs. I remember laughing, going, he's mugged me off there. I was like, he's absolutely, because he's absolutely right. And I just remember thinking to myself, what am I doing? I am responsible for fixing this situation. I'm responsible for the way I'm feeling. I'm responsible for him coming home and being well within his right to say, you've done nothing, you've wasted your time, you're wasting your ability, you're wasting all this free, you know, this luxury of free time, living at home with no bills, life's good, and you're just wasting it sat on your Xbox, and you're wasting it crying and complaining about how tough life is. But after he'd said that to me, it all kind of clicked into place, and it was like, actually, I am responsible for it, and I do need to take account. On the flip side, and this is why, again, I hate this whole babying of mental health where people aren't calling it out for what it is nowadays, because what he could have done and what could have easily happened is, oh my God, you know, you said you want to kill yourself. And that, by the way, I just want to establish how serious that is. You know, I'm not saying taking that lightly from anyone, and it needs to be treated with the utmost respect and the utmost seriousness. You know, and everyone is different, so I'm not trying to take anything away from the gravity of a comments like that. This is just my personal experience that affected me. But he could have said, you know, oh, it's the worst thing ever. I can't believe that that's how you feel. I'm so sorry. And it all could have been very different, where all of a sudden we get therapists involved, and there's nothing wrong with therapy at all. Again, I just need to caveat that. And it could have been handled in a way that all of a sudden I now feel like I need, whether it's certain antidepressants or tablets or pills or therapy to actually live a normal life. Whereas it was done in the way it was done, and now I have no issues. Since that day, I've never had any issues with my mental health because of the tools that he gave me through this discipline and through that tough love way of, you know, instilling mental strength into me, rather than pandering to my, at the time, really quite probably obvious spoiled brat attitude of being a baby and being a whiny little kid, which is really all I was doing at the time. I was only putting it on, and he must have known that, and good on him for being a good dad and understanding when his son was probably being serious and when he was just being honest, a drama queen.
Well, this is why you have to take it up as the individual, and this is why it's so important that, if we teach a way of doing things just as a broad stroke of a brush group, then everyone's going to get treated the same, and it's all one size fits all. But that's not the case. Everyone's completely different people. With Dad, he did the similar thing with me. Well, it was slightly different, but I did that flower project when I was a kid as well, and he came in, bad day from work, spent hours on this project picking flowers in the garden with my mum. Sounds all very lovely. And, I had to do it, like I say, for school. I don't know if it was an environmentally friendly thing at the time. I wasn't too sure. But like I say, all day. And he'd come in, bad day. And he'd literally walked in the room, seen it, and just gone, what's that? That's a load of shit. And, you've done that rubbish and ripped it all up. And there's me, obviously, thinking, Jesus Christ, I thought I was quite good. But at the end of the day, it stills into you. You got to work. You got to work hard. Things have got to be perfect. And, stress is just a part of life. And I think mental health and stress can be conflated sometimes. And they are different, mental health, stress. Everyone's going to get stressed. It's how you deal with it.
I think as a parent, he just wants what's best for you. So when he's come back to your shit flower project, he's probably looking at it and thinking, this belongs in the bin. You've destroyed my garden for this crap. So
it's unbelievable. It was
a bit of tough love.
If I had a photo, I'd send it.
But if you had a bit of tough love, sometimes it's important. I think, again, we're getting away from the harder conversations. When people say that they're struggling, everyone's immediate first thought is defensive. Oh my God, shock. This is going to be the worst thing in the world. What can we do? And it's almost used as a weapon now, where I know I tried to use it as a weapon. And as a kid, you don't know any different. And we're talking 13, 14 years ago. So you do use it as a weapon to try and make people feel bad. And what he didn't do was succumb to me trying to weaponize this mental health situation that I was going through. And he saw right through it and basically said, and he knew I wasn't being serious, which is why he said, go and do it then. He knew I was putting it on just to try and get through to it. And sometimes it's about having the right relationships with people where you can speak about these tough conversations. But for us in business, where there are going to be days where we struggle, and there are going to be days, and it's about understanding that you can speak to people, but more than that, having the right people around you, because if you've got the right people around you, if you are suffering, then the biggest thing you can do is go to somebody that's close to you and just offload, just vent and have the conversation. And that's sometimes all you need, is just to have the right person around. Because if I was with the wrong person then at the time, for example, in a modern day, God forbid I said that in a school to a teacher now in a modern day, they'd have been ferried me off to the local loony bin, and they'd have IV'd me with a bunch of antidepressants and
Dad locked up.
Yeah, it would have been, yeah. And that's the reality of what can be so destructive when people jump to conclusions and you're not hanging around with the right people.
This is why, again, I'd said it earlier, environment's just so important. So important, because your environment includes the people you surround yourself with. And if you surround yourself with people that are all very prone to having mental health problems, it's easy to fall into that and see yourself in a situation when you could well be, but you see yourself as a victim. And whereas sometimes it can help some people, again, not everyone, but if you're around people who say, come on, mate, no, you need to, let's go out, let's go to the gym, that'll make you feel better, or, oh, let's do this, let's do that, rather than pandering to it all the time. You're better having the right person around you, right environment, right friends. And you'd like to say, we're going to that event and it's going to be all positive, great, hard work, and you come away from it and it's like, whoa, eyes open and you're ready for action.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. Not
Sometimes.
everyone.
Yeah, and this is the thing. It's got to be caveated with some people do genuinely go through struggle. So, this isn't really catered towards them. This is just for those people who generally most of the time probably feel like they've hit a bit of a rut. They've hit a point in the road where they don't really know what to do, and they feel like, life's against them a little bit. And sometimes you just got to give yourself a bit of a kick up the arse and just have a bit of tough love, and somebody needs to tell you to snap out of it and give you a bit of a slap round the head. Reality, it depends who you are as a person, but again, that's what I got, that's what I had, and I know a lot of people that have had the same, and it's benefited them greatly. Because the reality is, again, if you're not prepared, certainly in businesses are unfeeling. Businesses give zero shits about whether you've had a good day, a bad day, happy, whether you've had an injury, whether you're sick, whether you've lost a loved one, you've lost a pet, whatever it might be. The business does not give a shit. It cares about getting the money in. It cares about being able to pay its bills, pay the staff, and it cares about, like you said, generating cash. And if it can't generate cash, for whatever reason, the business dies. The business cannot. It's not like the government where it can just keep printing cash whilst everybody takes a couple of weeks holiday because they're feeling sad. The reality is, any business on planet Earth, even Amazon, if you were to shut it down for 1 year, i.e. take every single employee out of Amazon because everyone's having a bad time, then it would shut down. It needs people to continue to push it forward. And so businesses are unfeeling. The people within them obviously care, and we care about our staff, and we care about the team, we care about each other. But the business itself is unfeeling. So again, the other tough thing, you've got to be quite mentally strong. If you're going to run a business, you need to have that understanding that, unfortunately, don't give a shit about your feelings. It doesn't. The business don't care. The business needs you to be fighting fit. It needs you to be on the ball every single day. And if it doesn't, it's a sad reality, but that business is going down the toilet.
Well, this is what's happened in the two stories we've already said. One way or another, the money wasn't going in, and because of that, they both died, I suppose. And it's a shame it happens, and this is the thing. You got to constantly, and it's another part of it, I suppose, maybe one of the last ones, but you got to keep innovating, keep pushing with the times, and keep changing and keep adapting, because otherwise, I went to a supplier ages ago, and they still had like a fax system. So I've not seen a fax in God knows how long. I was like, you're still using faxes? And I'm like, bloody hell, you need to change that.
But people are just destined to fail, and sometimes people just can't get with the times. They can't. It's embarrassing, but I can see a business that's dead from miles away, and you walk into a business and it's tired. There's paint's chipped off the wall. This place is dirty. It's still got fax machines. The coffee mugs in the kitchen are all still like a mess, and it's in a state of disrepair, and the energy's gone, and it's all just dilapidated and lazy and sluggish. And you can just see it. You walk into any building, and I do it because I evaluate businesses that I walk into, and I'll genuinely think, I can tell straight away within 6 months this business will be gone. And I've seen it time and time again, because poor management and poor leadership, if they're not strong, leading from the front with the strong virtue, strong sort of stoic mind where they are confident in their ability to drive a team forward and bear the weight of all that stress, bear the weight of all the pressure on their shoulders, and still continue to push and thrive. If you haven't got a leader that is capable of that, 9 times out of 10, your business is going to fail. But it's not all doom and gloom. Remember, everybody goes through these mental health things, don't they? And the reality for us, we've been through it. Just wanted to share a few of our personal stories of what we've dealt with as we've gone through business and life. And it's not always easy. But the reality is, we're here now. As I said, in 2 years' time, our business is forecasted to turn over £10 million in revenue, which will be an 8-figure turnover. And it's something that we're super proud of, and we're continuing to push. But there's been times that have been tough. There's been times we've lost money. There's been times we've felt sad. There's been times we've had anxiety and depression and sadness and arguments and loss and fear. But if you let it stop you, then the reality is you'll never succeed. And again, that Rocky film is always a great one, where he says it's not about how hard you get hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep on going. And for us, that is the battle of not only business, but also mental health. It's taking the hits, getting back on the horse, keep pushing forward, and driving it home, and doing it for not just yourself, but doing it for those around you.
And you just get that bit stronger, and that much more that you go through in your own personal lives, that then also even gets easier, whether it's taking out a lease on a car, mortgage on a house, bills that are overdue, X, Y, and Z. The more problems that you have in your own life or at work, the more equipped you are to then dealing with them.
So, bear the scars. Business is a tough and unfeeling game. It does not care about whether you're having a good day or a bad day. But the reality is, if you've got a good network around you and you've got goals and you're doing them for the right reasons, you will always be able to find a way out through the darkness and find a way into the light. And you will be so much better for it going through the hardships, because like I said, you'll have the scars to bear. You've learned the lessons and you'll be stronger each and every time. And if you don't let it phase you, you never know where you might end up as a person, because there are going to be so many near success stories, and that's not going to be one of us. We don't want to be nearly successful. We want to keep pushing, roll with the punches, and make our way to glory. So remember, like and subscribe, and drop a comment below if you've got any other topics that you'd like us to talk about in future episodes. We'd love to hear some of your ideas. Stick around and we'll see you in the next one.